guys? Andrew Henderson from Nomad Capitalist in Bali, Indonesia. Been hanging out at our villa for the last week with some former clients, now friends, who are in the Amazon FBA and e-commerce space. And what a lot of folks don't necessarily understand at first glance is that doing Nomad Capitalist these days for me really isn't about the money. Never really was. This was kind of supposed to be my retirement project. And it's a lot more about meeting interesting people and hanging around villas, discussing the next business idea, and that's what we've been doing. But wanted to share a follow-up to some controversial thoughts that we talked about earlier regarding President Trump. Earlier we talked about the Muslim ban, and that got people fired up. But wanted to talk a little bit about the potential trade war with China, Mexico, other countries, and how that affects those of you who are selling stuff online, which is a lot of the folks that I help, people selling stuff on FBA, Shopify, etc. And so I was talking to these folks over the last couple of days and saying, hey, what happens if Trump does actually go through some kind of trade war on China? What's going to happen? Are you going to be affected? And their first thought was, well, no, if there's a tariff, things will come in and they'll be imported and we'll all pay the tariff. We'll all pay the 20% or the 30% or whatever it is. And so our stuff will be more expensive. The next guy's stuff will be more expensive. And that's cool. And that's one school of thought. My devil's advocate suggestion was, especially if the U.S. economy gets worse, but even if it doesn't, people are probably going to be less interested in buying, plastic bull figurines or papier-mâché tigers when they're 30% more expensive. There's stuff people will buy for fun at $8 that they won't buy for $13. And so I think that definitely that's something to keep in mind. If you're selling on e-commerce in the U.S., not much that a Nomad strategy can do for you in that regard. But I want to talk to you about a Nomad strategy that we do at Nomad Capitalist that I think can really help your e-commerce business. Now, the folks who I'm here with now have already done this. That's why they're hanging out with me. But if you're doing e-commerce and you're living in the U.S., you're living in the U.K., you're living in Australia, you're like so many of the folks who come to nomadcapitalist.com and who apply to work with me. And you're paying all the taxes in that country that you're living in. Some folks are paying as much as 50% of their income in tax for their e-commerce business. And that really affects their ability to reinvest in new products, really stops their ability to invest in creating new products, get the word out about their existing products, and it forces them, in some cases, to charge higher prices for their products than they would otherwise. So whatever Trump does, and I always tell you, be divorced from politics. I'm not pro-Trump or anti-Trump. I'm a business person, I'm pragmatic, always have been. But what the secret sauce and what the secret weapon really, I think, for e-commerce sellers is setting yourself up with a offshore strategy where you can reduce your tax or even eliminate it in some cases, but at least reduce it as low as possible. Don't pay 50%, don't pay 40%, don't pay even 30%. And I've seen and talked to so many people all around the world, from California and all the high tax places in Europe and Australia and Canada, and they're having a harder time than some of their competitors in other countries. So imagine you've got a competitor, you're in California, you're paying 40 or 50% income tax, and that's coming out of every time you make a profit selling stuff. And that impedes your ability to reinvest into new product development and into buying more products to lower your price point, increase your margins, all that stuff. Now you've got another guy who's offshore. He's living somewhere where he pays 5% tax. And he can charge lower prices because he doesn't need to make as much money. He can buy more product in advance because every time he makes a profit, less of that profit gets siphoned off to go to taxes. And so his business grows exponentially faster, the guy who's paying 0%, 5%, even 10%, than the guy in the Western world who's paying 40 or 50%. Whatever Trump does is one thing. We can't really control that other than going and selling in other Amazon stores or selling to other countries. But to keep the same strategy of doing FBA, doing Shopify, selling to people in the United States, so many people are doing this in the e-commerce world. If you want a secret weapon, it's setting up an offshore company, setting up a legal tax strategy where you can go and live somewhere or just travel the world and be able to reduce your taxes. Like I said, sometimes to zero, sometimes to very low amounts. By doing that, you put so much money in your pocket, and every single time you make a profit, all that money goes back into the business, much more so than it is now. And that is what, in my opinion, it really allows you to jump over the competition. So you're not worried about what's Trump going to do. You're not worried about this event or that event. You're worried on you. It's something that you can do to put a lot more money in your pocket. I've seen so many Amazon guys and Shopify guys who have come to me. We've saved them hundreds of thousands of dollars legally That's what we're talking about here in the villa in Bali. If you're selling online, I definitely encourage you to check us out at nomadcapitalist.com. Find out how much money you could save to put back into your e-commerce business and not have to worry about external events, but rather control the events yourself.